Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to celebrate Mr. Dylan Clark. We're here to hear from him on his final presentation. He has 3 questions he's going to answer. They're plastered around the room. Who does he aspire to be as a teacher? What opportunities has he presented himself with to become a better teacher? And how is he going to maximize his student teaching internship this upcoming spring? As a reminder, Dylan, you have 30 minutes. Whenever we get to the question and answer portion, we're going to welcome questions from the audience, both here and online. Kendra will help us communicate those questions from the audience in the chat box. Dylan, we ask that you repeat those questions for those here and online so they can hear them. You will have 30 minutes, and that time starts now.
All right, thank you. So I appreciate everybody coming out today to support me in this journey. If you notice on the handouts that you picked up on your way in and on the screen, there's a QR code. I'll be referencing several items in that QR code throughout the presentation, so keep that pulled up on your phone. So before we get into it, why don't we talk about a little bit about who I am. So I was a member of the Mohawk Area FFA chapter back home. I was there for 4 years. During my time there, I was treasurer and president of my chapter. I grew up on my family's farm in Enon Valley, Pennsylvania, with my parents and Peggy and my 2 brothers, Christopher and Shane. And I moved to Penn State, spring 2020 semester from Beaver campus, where I really enjoyed my time here. And that's make sure I with my girlfriend Kayla. So first question, who do I aspire to be as a teacher? So my educational philosophy can really be summed up in about 3 points. The first thing I want to incorporate in my classroom is a hands-on active learning environment. I know for myself, when I was in school, I was learning best when I was in the shop, working with my hands, and when I can actually touch and see something happening in front of me, that's when I know that, for me at least, I'm learning best. So I think that incorporating some of my personality with that into my classroom will help me a lot. Another thing about my education philosophy, I want to have an inclusive space where new ideas from all of my students are welcome. Each student has a different experience in their life, so allowing them to bring those ideas into my classroom and allowing them to feel safe and comfortable to share those ideas and experiences in my classroom walls are something that I really strive to build to have that environment in my classroom. And then the other thing is asking questions and learning from one another. When I get to a classroom, I know that I'm not going to have all the answers to everything because I'm just not an expert in it, and that's okay. I want my students and me to learn and grow together as we work through the curriculum. So wrapping all that up, there's a little picture in there, a little infographic, just to explain my philosophy a little better. If you'd like to talk to me more about that, please do so in the questions after the presentation is over. So for my classroom management plans, Noah, Ian, and Paul, can you guys come up here, please? So each one of you gets to hold one of these posters. And you guys can stand like over your head and the screen. Perfect. All right. So we're going to start off with my classroom expectations. I have 5. The first one is be respectful. I believe that be respectful incorporates being respectful of each other, being respectful of the instructor or whoever I might have in there as a guest presenter that day, and being respectful of the environment that we're in, so the classroom, the equipment, and everything. My next one is be determined to achieve. I want all my students to strive to achieve their to the maximum of their capabilities in my classroom. The next one is to be thoughtful. I want all my students to think about why they're here, why we're learning about this, just to keep the purpose of my classroom in mind. Be sincere. I want all my students to really show up and allow themselves to show their personality through the classroom. I don't want anybody to feel like they're out of place or feel like they can't share themselves inside the classroom. Cooperate with one another. I hope to include a lot of projects with my students, working together and a lot of activities where we're going to be working in groups. So cooperation in my classroom is going to be important. Then at the bottom of that poster there, I have we learn better together. That's something that I really want to emphasize in my classroom. So my classroom procedures. Number 1, arrive on time. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. 2, find your seat. 3, complete your bell work that I have posted on the board. That's something that I want my students to have every day when they come in. They come in, they look at the board. Hey, this is what Mr. Clark expects us to do before he gets ready to start class. That also gives me time to get anything set up in the lab or classroom that I need. Have all the materials ready for the day, work to the best of your ability, and clean up all your materials at the end of the day. Especially with me, I hope to be incorporating a lot of shop classes into my curriculum. So taking that burden off of me and cleaning up at the end of the day is something that I expect from all of my students. And then levels of misconduct, something that I hope that we never have to come to because of the expectations and procedures, but they're there for reference in case we would ever need them. They align with my cooperating school levels as well. So verbal reprimand, teacher meeting following class, just a one-on-one to talk about what's going on. Then we can go to a parental and guardian call if need be, and then lastly, an administration. So you guys put those back down. Thank you. Round of applause for our volunteers. So my ideal program course outline. So this highlights my strengths for sure. And if I was going into a one teacher program, these are the two pathways that I know that I can focus on and do really well. So starting off, every ninth grader would be taking an intro to agriculture class, where we can do our intro to AFNR stuff. We can talk about FFA, SAE. And then I also have an option for 9th and 10th grade, intro to ag mechanics, moving through two different pathways then, animal science and ag mechanics pathways. So we have animal science, small gas engines, welding, livestock production, advanced welding, where hopefully I would be able to incorporate a certification at the end of the program, and then food production as well. Okay, so my $15 project that I made for $350 with Dr. Ewing. My project is a sprinkler for your garden that you can connect to a hose. I have a control valve here. And then there are holes drilled at the bottom of the piping to water your garden, your flower beds, whatever you need to. I like this project a lot because it gets students hands-on with PVC while they're working in the classroom. So a new skill they can learn and something useful they can take home after class. And it wasn't exactly $15, it was $17. So yeah, we'll just roll with it. So 3-circle model of agriculture education. So how am I going to incorporate the 3 parts of the 3-circle model, which are classroom instruction, SAE, which is supervised agriculture experience, and FFA leadership. So classroom instruction, I think we all kind of get the point behind that. We've all been in a classroom before. But how do I bring SAE and FFA into that? So starting with that 9th grade intro class that I hope to teach one day. I want my students to come in and be like, hey, let's talk about FFA. Let's talk about its history. Let's talk about why we do FFA. What are the benefits of it? So incorporating that, first of all, into that original class, in a basic class to get that interest started and build in those students, to bring them into the program. Bring SAE into the class in the room as well. There are so many things that you can do with SAE nowadays that I didn't even know about when I was going through school. And part of that is because of the SAE for all implementation over the past 2 years. So having a time in each class to stop and say, hey, we're learning about this right now, but this is something that you can take to the field, and actually you can start doing this yourself through your SAE project. It's something that I hope to incorporate in my program as well. Going back to FFA, the same thing in each class, and hey, we have CDE for this. If you're enjoying this, why don't we get a team together and let's go and try to compete with the team and see how we do, see how we put our skills in the test in these competitions. As far as recruitment for my program goes, I think that if I'm creating an environment where my students are excited to come and learn, they're having fun, and they enjoy everything that they're doing, that's just going to allow them to talk to their friends and be like, hey, what I'm doing in the ag shop right now, it's cool. So you all need to come down and join it with us. So as far as recruitment, I know that if I'm creating that environment, that's going to be something that I can foster, and that will help build my program over time. So what experiential educational opportunities have I engaged in to make myself a better teacher? So we have some coursework that I did here at Penn State that I really enjoyed. First one being 349, 350 with Dr. Ewing. Ag mechanics is kind of my forte, so it would seem normal to you all that this would be one of my favorite classes. But honestly, what got me so excited about this class is before I was in these classes, I had been in an ag shop since high school. So being able to get back into it and relighting that fire within me, like, hey, this is my passion. That's something that got me really excited to get back into the classroom and work with students. Intag 100 with Dr. H. That was a fantastic class. I really enjoyed it actually. And that it showed me somebody who came from a small town, you know, you don't have to travel around the world to be involved globally. We can start doing global engagement with our students in our own backyards. So that class really helped me out, and that's something that I hope to include in my classrooms in the future as well. And then Criminal Justice 13 with Ms. Jody Gill at Penn State Beaver. That class was really cool to me. So that is a juvenile delinquency class, which I just randomly signed up for as a gen ed, and then I realized, hey, I can apply the stuff that I'm learning in this class to education in the future. You know, how do students think? Why is the psychology behind young people, like why do they do the things that they do? So talking about all those things in that class is something that I hope to use to my advantage in the future once I get to the classroom. If you look at that document on the QR code, I have a review paper that I did there on the Kids for Cash scheme that actually happened in Luzerne County, Pennsylvania. I would encourage you all to read up on that because that was something that I really got interested in and then ended up writing this paper for as well. So what certifications and accreditations have I gotten to continue to grow myself as a teacher? The first one would be the National Safe Tractor and Machinery Operators Instructor license that we got through 413 with Dr. Ewing. So that's something that I can incorporate into my classroom, having that, so I can get all my students also NSTMOP certified as well. And then I have a Flipgrid Educator level 1 certification. Flipgrid is an online platform that students can go on it and upload a short video talking about any subject that I decide to post about. And that allows them to have a discussion with their peers, but not necessarily in a classroom setting. So it allows those that maybe are not so keen to talk out in class to still get their ideas out and share with their classmates. So for professional development opportunities, unlike the rest of my cohort members, I did not attend PWAU this summer because I was actually in Oklahoma with the American Association of Meat Processors Conference. So I was down there competing with a team from the Penn State Meats Lab, where I've worked since I've been here, and attending classes there about the meat industry. So that was something that was cool to me, but I did miss out on the PWAU opportunity because of that. So I did catch up though when we got back to this semester. Back in November, we went to the Inquiry Institute here that John Seaman helped put on. So that was really cool. We had Miss Jessica Grundy from Utah show up and talk to us about the inquiry process and how students can really drive their learning in the classroom, with you more so just facilitating the classroom and allowing students to grow in their own ways. And then we went, back at the beginning of December, we went to New Orleans for the National Association of Agricultural Educators Conference. That experience was really, really cool to me. One of my favorite workshops that I went to there was the NFA workshop, because that really showed me the history that I had a brief background in, being able to go in there and talk to one of the top researchers on the New Farmers of America and how we can incorporate that history into our classrooms more is something that I found to be very, very helpful to me and something that I want to strive to include in my classroom in the future. So these are some experiences that I have had that I think are going to help me continue to be a better teacher as well. So I was a Penn State Extension intern for 2020 and 2021 in Lawrence County. Two very, very different summers with that internship. 2020, I was all online, doing over Zoom curriculum with the students. I was hosting virtual game nights, virtual hangout nights with the 4-H members in our county. And then 2021, I got to finally get in and get immersed with the members of the program. So I was going to regional camps, helping to run those. I was going to horse shows, which, if you know me, not a big horse guy. I don't touch horses. So that was something that got me out of my comfort zone for sure. So that was a really cool experience for me to have, and something that was definitely related to my field, and just something that I always enjoyed being a 2H and FFA member as I was growing up. Delta Theta Sigma fraternity. As you can tell, I have a lot of brothers and sisters that are with us today. During my time there, we have done a lot of professional development events. One of my favorites being when we were talking to the PA Secretary of Agriculture, Russell Redding, about current trends in agriculture, what issues are we having in Pennsylvania, and how can we as future leaders of the agriculture industry continue to grow the industry and help to mitigate those problems in the future. Really cool because Russell Redding is also an alumni of DTS, so it's cool that he comes back and shares those experiences with us as well. My time in the meat processing, my time in the meat processing industry. So I started working in a butcher shop when I was 16. That's me with my younger brother Shane at 80s, where we both worked out back home. That's a small family-run butcher shop that we've been working in. And then when I came up here to Penn State, I started working at the Penn State Meats Lab. So the industry is something that I've grown and passionate about over the years. It's something that I hope to bring to my students in the classroom, because I still have a lot more to learn in this industry, but it's something that I've developed a passion for over the last few years of my life. And then a global engagement opportunity that I had was a mission trip with my church when I was 15 years old. We went to Portland, Maine, and we're working with African refugees. What most of us were doing while we were there was working day camps with migrant children. So this kid that's pictured here with me, his name is Nelson. I met him probably like day 3 of the trip. And because I was 15, never really left home before, I was very, very apprehensive about how to go about talking with these kids, how to work with these kids. But luckily for me, I had just finished my first year of Spanish in high school, and Nelson spoke Portuguese, which I never knew were that closely related in languages. So between Google Translate and both of us speaking broken words back to each other, we kind of developed a friendship while I was there. And not really sure where Nelson's at today, but it's definitely an experience that I will keep for the rest of my life. So how am I prepared to maximize my student teaching internship? So I will be student teaching at the Wilmington Area Agriculture Education Program with Ms. Joanna McKelvey starting in January. They are an agricultural production zip code. They're very, very heavy on animal science at Wilmington Area, which is something that I definitely have a background in growing up on a farm, but something that I still definitely have a lot more to learn. So some classes that I'm picking up in the animal science realm that are definitely out of my comfort zone are small animal science, vet science, as well as equine science. Like I said, not a big horse guy, but we're going to dive in and go for it anyway. They have had state CDE winners in livestock. Joanna is a fantastic livestock evaluation coach. So that's something that she is very proud about in her program. They have really good participation in SAE, but have room for improvement, especially with the new SAE for All model. And then another goal of the program at the moment is to continue to grow career readiness for their students, hoping to add more ag med classes that can accredit certification to their students when they leave the program. So what is all of this happening? This is an outline of my 15-week student teaching. That first week, I will be at Farm Show with Wilmington, and then when we get back, I'll be doing some observation as well. And then the second week, I start by picking up building and trades first, and moving through. I'll pick up a new class each week, so I'll pick up landscaping, leadership, ag business, small animal science, equine science, and then finally vet science. Those 3 down there at the end, I'm super excited to get to. I kind of kept them towards the end of my experience though, because I want to work with Joanna and have her teach me, the things that I don't already know about those classes, and how I can better be prepared to teach her students those topics. So how am I staying organized with all this? In my QR code there, you can see my folder set up in my Google Drive. Each class has its own folder, and in there, each unit with all the lesson plans are all organized in there. So that's something that's really helped me, because before the semester wasn't the best at organization, but definitely having all this work to do has really made me step my name up with that. As you can see also in that QR code, there's an example of one of my unit plans and one of my lesson plans. The unit plan is my welding unit plan, and the lesson plan is my first lesson for welding class. So that's just kind of how I design my instruction. There's many ways to do it. But this is what works for me. It's something that I can take into my classroom and use that would be very functional for me. So, who am I going to be as an educator? My strengths are an educator who values each student no matter where they come from, no matter their background. I appreciate you showing up and telling your story to me and sharing that with the class, because that's how we're going to create that inclusive environment and be able to grow together. Another one of my strengths is ag mechanics. Like I said, that's something that has been my wheelhouse for a long time. That's something that I've appreciated sharing with my cohort members, especially at 349, 350. And then I'm also very approachable. I am who I am. I'm authentic. I don't apologize for who I am. When you see me, this is me. So I hope that my personality will shine through my lessons and allow my students to be comfortable working with me and develop those professional relationships with them. So my goals for my 15-week internship opportunity. The first one is to develop my overall confidence in the classroom. I'm not saying that I'm nervous to get there, but I'm nervously excited to get there. Because I just want to, have that reassurance to myself that, hey, I can do this. Once I get there and I see those things, I know that I can do this. And then make an impact with my cooperating schools community through service with the FFA. Another way that I can do that as well is implementing a community-based unit into one of my courses. What my plan is for that right now is with my landscaping course to go out into the community. There's a park about half a mile down the road from Wilmington. Go there and do some landscaping work in the park. Get my students out and have the public see them working and hey, those are some pretty good kids. That program's good. We should keep that in our schools. And then my last goal is continue to be myself and allow my personality to come through and be shown through my lessons. Like I said before, I am who I am, and I think I'm a pretty likable person. So hopefully my students think so too. And just allowing me to be me will develop those positive relationships with my students. So here is to my 15-week internship opportunity with Wilmington. I'm super excited to get there with Joanna. I think it's going to be a fantastic experience. So before I close though, I need to thank two really big families of mine here at Penn State. The first being my DTS family. Thank you guys all for coming out and supporting me today. I could not have made it through college without you guys, because you guys have been a really big support system for me throughout my time here. I'm so glad that I joined this house, and thank you all so much. The other family that I need to thank is my cohort family. Without you guys, I don't know that I would be standing up here giving this presentation right now. So thank you all for pushing me to be better. And I'm so glad that we developed the community that we have within this cohort over the past couple semesters for sure. So with that, thank you all for coming to my presentation, and what questions can I answer?
Thank you, Dylan. We'll ask that the online audience queue up their questions in the chat so that Kendra can help us relay. Dylan, I will start us off by maybe asking you to demonstrate some of your knowledge of how we motivate students. So in the 311 class, we talked a lot about that being at the heart of developing good FFA and SAE programs, is being able to motivate students. And so demonstrate to me that you understand what the theories and research that talk about motivation and how we can specifically motivate students in those two areas.
Yeah, so first one being intrinsic motivation, motivation from within a student. I think that just supporting the students while they're in the classroom will help them develop that intrinsic motivation within them to be like, hey, this person cares about me. I want to do good for him. So let's continue to do good work in his class. Let's join the CDE team. Let's get involved with the FFA. And then extrinsic motivation, like I said before, getting my students excited about the program and developing my community for the program, having good peer pressure on students from around their peers to join the program and get involved. So.
Thank you, Dylan.
Brown said, if you had any advice to give to a first-year student in the College of Ag Sciences or ABD, what would it be?
So the question was, if I could give advice to any first-year student right now, any agriculture first-year student right now, what would it be? My biggest piece of advice is find your community. Like I mentioned at the end of my presentation, I found 2 really good communities once I got here. So having that support system around you and having those people to elevate you to be better is something that I encourage everyone.
Dylan, fantastic presentation, and I do want to commend you because I feel like I've seen some measurable growth from the beginning of the semester till now in the comfort level you have addressing an audience and bringing yourself out to people. And I'm assuming that has not come by luck, that you worked on that. And I am also going to assume that this spring you're going to encounter some students that are beginning that journey of not yet come to the point where you are. Do you have some tips and tricks and tools that you picked up along the way that you're going to use in the spring, and what are those?
So one of the biggest things that I did to continue to improve my instructions in lab with you, Carson, and then just continue to improve my comfort level being in front of the crowd in general, is definitely reflection. I was calling Thomas up, all the time, and be like, hey, how can I do better? Let's talk about what went wrong, what went good. Let's meet in the middle and continue to grow what I'm doing, and how can we just continue to do better.
It's on Facebook Live. Liv says, how has your experience growing up before your leadership shaped your educational ideals and goals? Very good.
So the question was, how has my experience growing up in the 4-H program, how's that going to incorporate into my educational goals in the future? So having the experience of 4-H and FFA is something that I really, really am glad that I had those experiences, because I stayed with 4-H the whole way till I was 18, and I stayed with FFA from the time that I could join till the time that I got booted out of that as well. So yeah, having those experiences and seeing formal-based education as well as non-formal based education is something that those experiences I can combine to have, hey, I had these experiences at 4-H, how can I incorporate those in the classroom into more of a traditional setting when I learned it this way in a different non-formal setting.
Hey, Dylan. Question for you here that I'm interested to see how you respond. I was listening real close. How you were going to recruit, what you were going to work through, and how you want to be seen as a teacher and what you experience. And so here's the question. As educators, should we only do what students want to do?
So the question was, as educators, should we only do what students want to do? My answer to that is no. I think that we need to continue to push students. One of my expectations was be determined to achieve. So going back to that, if we're pushing students to continue to achieve more, even though, hey, they might not want to do that, but just keep pushing a little bit. See where we can get to together. Because if we're only doing what they want to do, some students are going to want to do the bare minimum. That's not something that I'm going to strive for in my classroom. I want to be elevated and achieving more than what we felt.
So acknowledging that when we push students outside their comfort zone, sometimes they're uncomfortable, and being uncomfortable is not always fun. Okay. How about this question? And I'll sit back here, because I love the passion for meat science. I do consider Jonathan Campbell a good friend. I'm excited about the very oriented intern program that he's helped set up and establish around this. I'm curious if you can explain to me or describe to me, as if I were a student at Wilmington, the connections to meat science that I could find in FFA or in SAE.
Okay. So first with FFA, there is a meat judging CDE. So taking those experiences that we have in the classroom, learning about meat science and cuts of meat, how do we break down cattle or any livestock actually. How can we take these skills that we're learning in the classroom and then apply them to the CDE? As far as SAE, both me and my younger brother both have placement SAEs working in butcher shops. So that's definitely something that you do, as well as starting, a small business of your own, getting that immersion, SAE, and ownership, and then maybe you just start out cutting up a couple deer for people during deer season, and then continue to grow that business. So there are definitely ways to do it. I'm sure there's ways to do it the whole way through all 5 branches of SAE. Those are 2 that immediately come to mind.
Thank you.
Some online. Marlene said, what was your aha moment in life when you said ag education is where I need to be? Helping students learn about ag is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to be doing in life.
So the question was, what was my aha moment of, hey, ag education, that's it, that's what I need to do. To be honest with you, I'm not really sure that I had like a snap moment where I was just like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I just had always grown up in ag education through 4-H and FFA. And, when I was deciding what I wanted to do when I got to college, I'm like, well, let's just keep doing what I've always done. I've always enjoyed it. I enjoy being around students. I enjoy being around the programs. I know how much they've done for me, and I just want to continue to give back to those programs. So that's kind of my reasoning behind becoming an agriculture educator.
Another one. Logan says, what is the biggest change you'd like to bring to the ag program you're entering?
So the biggest change that I would like to bring to the ag program that I am going to be student teaching at, I want to bring my expertise of ag mechanics to Wilmington. They are a very heavy animal science program, but their OAC is definitely starting to push towards getting certifications for their students. So showing up with that experience and helping them to continue to, hey, these are my thoughts on this. I don't have all the answers, but just being there and being able to share my experiences with ag mechanics and possible certifications and pathways for students out of that.
I'm going to jump in, Dylan. We focus a lot on ag mechanics in terms of laboratories, but we know there's other laboratories that we teach in agricultural education. So I want you to choose a laboratory area, which can be ag mechanics, and describe to me an example or provide an example to me of how you manage the cleanup of that laboratory at the end of the class session or perhaps additionally at the end of a unit.
So because ag mechanics is my forte, I will go ahead and step away from ag mechanics for this one. So the question was, how do we clean up after a laboratory? So I'll go to my other forte of meat science. So when we're done working with equipment, even if we're just on a tabletop, sanitation is huge in the meat science industry. And we continue to provide safe food handling. We need to make sure that we follow the procedures that are outlined by ServSafe and the USDA for sure. So continuing to, and that's, it's an educational level for the students as well. Like, hey, this is food safety. These are the steps that we need to do to ensure that what we're doing is safe and we're keeping our stuff clean. So getting the students involved in the cleanup of the shop is definitely something that I would go to strive for because it's just another learning opportunity as well for them.
I just want to push just a little bit here.
Okay.
So I want you to hit more on that. How are the students involved? What actual procedure might you have in place so that students know who's responsible for what?
Yeah, so I mean, we can, it's definitely gonna be a rotational thing for sure. Have a list posted somewhere in the room, like, hey, on this day, Sally, John, and Jim, you guys are in charge of scrubbing down the cut tables, sanitizing the knives. If we have a grinder in the shop, how do we safely take apart the grinder? Demonstrate that for me while I'm supervising you, but you guys are gonna be doing the cleanup. So let's continue to grow our skills with that.
Thank you.
Yep.
We have some on Facebook, and Steve Hutchinson says, how has your experience in these virtual activities as an extension office intern helped prepare you to integrate technology in the classroom?
Yeah, so the question was how have my experiences doing online curriculum with 4-H while I was interning going to help me integrate technology into the classroom. So before 2020, I was not a big technology guy. I did not know any of the programs online that we can use to engage students other than Kahoot, because that was the only one that we ever used in high school. And I think that was extremely overused. And luckily, having tool time with Carson in 412 this semester, having him show us different ideas and programs that we, excuse me, programs that we can incorporate into our classroom is something that I am going to strive for, because I noticed during those internships, when I was doing something that the students hadn't seen before, that's when they were excited. That's when they were excited about it, because, hey, I'm not used to this. It's not just another Kahoot that we're playing online like we've been doing since March. So that was something that that experience I want to take with me and continue to push that into my classroom future as well.
Dylan, I have a question for you. I think that your background in science is really interesting and cool, but I also recognize that not everybody has the same viewpoints on that. Even in rural areas, you're going to encounter students that maybe might not be as comfortable with those topics. How are you going to make sure their thoughts and values are still upheld while teaching that topic to them?
Yeah, so I think the first part of that is being culturally responsive to the area that we're in. You know, if we have a area that's, you know, heavily populated by religions that are either not so accustomed to the meat science industry, then, you know, how do we do it in ways that their culture doesn't, so that we're not, you know, I want everybody to be comfortable in my classroom, especially when we're doing topics like that. So taking a step back for myself and looking at, hey, how do different cultures do things in the world, and incorporating that into my classroom as well is something that I think to make my students more comfortable, especially with topics that, you know, might not be everybody's forte.
Dylan, what are you most apprehensive of or fearful of moving into your student teaching internship, and how are you prepared to overcome that?
So the question was, what am I most apprehensive of moving into my student teaching internship? So the biggest thing, like I said, I am not a big course guy. I will continue to echo that my entire student teaching internship. But to overcome that, luckily I have an awesome cohort member named Taylor Hallblood, who has had my back already with my instructional design for equine science, and I'm going to continue to rely on her and her expertise in that area to make my instruction better as well.
No, I think that's a fantastic way to end. Will you help me in congratulating him on his journey so far? I'll conclude the public portion of this event. We have one last final presentation with Mr. Justin Kurtz at 2 o'clock. So if you're so inclined to stay, we would welcome that. Otherwise, thank you for your time. We'd ask you to retire to 2:14 for refreshment.